The Lancashire countryside, about 200 miles northwest of London, has become the unlikely epicentre of the UK debate on fracking. If the head of shale gas explorer Cuadrilla is right, then the land surrounding Preston City is sitting on top of resources a mile thick. Preston could become the next frontier in oil and gas exploration. David Cameron's government is already backing the explorers. The reserves, if developed, could be the start of a British energy revolution mimicking that of the United States, where fracking, a drilling technique known as hydraulic fracturing, has sent production soaring, created thousands of jobs, and slashed costs for industry. But fracking is controversial. It has been banned in France because of health and pollution concerns. Scotland has imposed a moratorium. Environmental campaigners and local residents are preparing for a fight if Lancashire County Council gives the go-ahead for Cuadrilla's plans to frack at two sites near Preston. One at a farm in Little Plumpton, and the other at Roseacre Wood. At the Plumpton Hall farm site, Francis Egan, Cuadrilla's chief executive, says it wants to drill up to 4 so-called horizontal wells in a 5-acre field.
So one of the challenges for us will be to decide where in that very thick section of shale we place the first horizontal well. Our geologists and geophysicists will work hard to decide that. We will then drill horizontally for about 1,500 metres, 1.5 or between 1 and 1.5 kilometres in this direction here. General direction. I can't say the exact orientation until we decide. And having drilled that well, we will then fracture the shale rock immediately around that well by injecting water and sand that goes with that water to hold those tiny cracks open, and then we'll look to flow the gas from the shale and see at what rate it might flow out, and that will be the first time that a horizontal well has been drilled into shale in the UK.
With North Sea production in freefall, domestic shale gas would give Britain an alternative to imports from Russia and the Middle East, he says. Opponents, though, fear not just the disruption and noise from drilling and trucks carrying materials and waste to and from the site, but the possible longer-term effects on farming and local tourism. Robert Sanderson is a third-generation dairy farmer near Roseacre Wood. He fears for his livelihood and his family's health.
We don't necessarily need to have a disaster with it. Just the supermarkets or something like that, you get a hold that they don't want produce from a fracked area. Could be enough to devastate my business entirely, and that's the bottom line. I mean, income's one thing, but your family and your health and whatever, you can't put a price on it at all.
In Lytham St Anne's, on the coast near Blackpool, Robert Silverwood, who runs the Lowther Gardens Cafe, voices similar concerns.
They should be seeking alternatives, and they should be seeking green energy. It's massive, it's out there, we're an island, we're capable of it, and that is where the future lies, and that's where the money should be being spent instead of short-term oil and gas and so on, fossil fuels.
At the Maple Farm Nursery, near Plumpton Hall Farm, feelings are running high. A residents' action group, the Knitting Nanas, has already staged demonstrations and plans more.
We are prepared to do whatever it takes to protect our children.
And grandchildren.
Cuadrilla says it understands people's concerns, but believes the fears are overblown.
You only have to log on to the internet to read any amount of scare stories, but ultimately what we're proposing to do, firstly, has been done millions of times in the US, and there are now, I think, almost 10 million people in the US who are living within 1 mile of a shale gas site, and there is no evidence to demonstrate that there's been any harm done to those people in the US.
The shale industry points to a working pilot project in Cheshire, where energy company iGas is extracting not shale gas, but coal bed methane at Doe Green near Warrington.
Once the wells are in production, we find that the level of noise, the level of activity decreases substantially over the drilling phase. And what you have to remember is that the drilling phase is only a small proportion of the overall life cycle of the site. We anticipate these sites to be able to produce gas for around 20 to 25 years. The majority of the time that the well and the site is in production, we would expect it to look, sound, feel very similar to this site here.
Whatever the council decision, the opposition to fracking isn't likely to go away anytime soon. And for Cuadrilla, it could be a bumpy ride ahead. Chris Adams, Financial Times, Preston.